Peter, the shape of the cricket bat has changed over the years. What would you say is the biggest influence in those changes?
The single biggest influence, without doubt, is the change in the laws of the game. Initially, the laws allowed the bowler only to roll the ball along the floor, try and hit two little stumps that were called wickets. And the batsman all really had to do was scoop the ball. The bat would then was shaped much like a hockey stick. But in the 1770s, the law was changed to allow length bowling, which meant the bowler could lob the ball towards the wicket and try and hit it, and could impart spin and all that sort of thing. So the bat in those days had to have the majority of the weight down at the bottom because the ball didn't bounce very much. Therefore, the weight was there. So when the bat struck the ball, the most mass was behind the ball. In the 1820s, the law was changed to allow round down bowling. So the ball travelled a lot quicker. Not probably as quick as Malinga bowls these days, but it was a similar sort of action was allowed. And therefore the bat had to change shape to allow that, and essentially the weight of the bat, or the mass of the blade, moved upwards. And this is a bat from the 1730s, which, as you can see, has got as much weight at the toe as it has at the top and at the middle. Very similar really to a flat baseball bat, but quite heavy because there was so much wood in it. When the laws were changed again in the 1860s to allow overarm bowling, the ball travelled much quicker and bounced a lot more because of the higher trajectory it was coming from. So the bat had to change with it. It needed to be lighter, so the bat makers worked out that the best way to do that was take wood from the shoulder and wood from the toe and leave the mass towards the driving area in the middle. And essentially the bat has changed not that much in the weight distribution to today's bats. There's lots of fancy things that we do, but essentially the bat hasn't changed in 100 years in the basic shape of it.
It looks like a bat that most people would recognise these days.
Yes, it's interesting how it's changed over the years. For example, I've got two bats here. This bat was in 1930, and you can see it's a pretty big bat. You know, look at that, Jim. That's pretty.
It is
pretty big. This bat was from the 1950s, in fact used by my predecessor Red Simpson, who played for Nottinghamshire and England, and he scored 156 with this against Lindwall and Miller at Melbourne. It's just like a wand.
It is, isn't it? Very much lighter.
Yeah. Now, if you gave a bat like that to a current day player, they'd laugh at you and say, I can't bat with that, I wouldn't hit the ball very far. But the fact was, of course, in those days, uncovered pitches meant the ball could deviate hugely and bounce more inconsistently. So the batsman needed to have a very light bat to be able to get into position and play the ball later.
Extra control as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's fantastic. And when did Gunn and Moore sort of come onto the scene then and sort of put their...
Well, Gunn and Moore started really around the time of just after the change of the laws. We started in 1885. Before then, cricketers would get a bat from the local carpenter who would make a bat, and the weight wasn't so crucial. But once the weight became more important to allow the batsman to play shots with the ball travelling quicker, then they needed a more resilient manufacturing process to make the bats better. And that's when Gunn and Moore started in 1885 by William Gunn, who interestingly was the first professional sportsman to play for England at both football and cricket. So he's a very interesting character.
Very good.
Yeah.
And they've always been made of willow. That's the traditional wood for bats.
Yes, it has. Since again, in the early 1800s, other woods were tried like elder and those sorts of wood, but they were actually too heavy to make for the lighter bats that were required in the latter part of the 1800s. And the carpenters and manufacturers found that English willow, Salix alba cerealia, was the only blade that could be used to make decent bats, and that's still the same today.
We've seen, you mentioned there some previous very well-known Gunn and Moore cricketers. Others that spring to mind?
Well, there's a huge array of fantastic players that have used Gunn and Moore equipment. I mean, we're market leaders in cricket throughout the world, and because of that, we've always had good players use our kit. But in my time, I mean, people like Richard Hadley, Shane Warne, Mike Gatting, Michael Vaughan, Graham Smith, Herschel Gibbs, Boucher, you know, I could go on and on. Dilip Vengsarkar, who was a fantastic Indian player, and Zahir Abbas and Imran Khan. They all used Gunn and Moore bats at some time during their career.
So in fact, players from all continents?
Absolutely, yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, well, some things have come on a long way. How are Gunn and Moore prepared for the 21st century?
Well, we had a dilemma a few years back to decide whether we wanted to continue making bats here or take it to the subcontinent, India and Pakistan, like a lot of our competitors. And we determined that we got so much heritage and skill here in this factory in Nottingham. And English willow will only grow in England, which is very fortunate for us as well. So we decided we wanted to make the best bats, not the cheapest bats, but the best bats, more consistently and with fantastic performance. And what you'll see in the factory, that's what we've achieved.